welcome to episode 2 of series 3 of How You Going with Jason Owen. And this series, we're talking reality check, where we're chatting to some past reality TV contestants. And tonight, I'm chatting to Sally Bloomfield from Real Housewives of Melbourne. And with these chats, we like to just, tune in and say g'day to people, which is the whole concept of the show, and see how they're going through these difficult times, because the last 18 months to 2 years have been very difficult for many people, everyone really, right across Australia, and in some small way that have been affected by, the COVID lockdowns and businesses and you name it. And this chat with Sally is very, very interesting because Sally actually owns a couple of hotels in Bali, and she's very, very interesting. And of course, many people would have seen her on Real Housewives of Melbourne. And we chat to Sally about her experience on the show, and also, get some insights to some of the people on the show that she did like and she didn't like, and who she was closest with, and it's very interesting. So if you watch Real Housewives of Melbourne, you'll be right into this one. And for those who don't know Sally, she's lovely, and I hope you enjoy the interview. And Sal joins me now. How are you, Sal?
I'm very well, Jason. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on for a chat. We really, really appreciate it. And you're down in Melbourne, of course. And
yes, I am.
Lockdowns and most people in other parts of the country. But what's it been like for you and your kids through these lockdowns?
Look, it's. I think when it first started, we all thought we were going to die. So it was kind of scary, but a little bit exciting at the same time. But Melbourne seemed to drag on for longer than anyone, and probably the biggest challenges was homeschooling. I think my youngest seemed to handle it pretty well, but my other son, who's now 19, he was 17 at the time, about to turn 18. So I think it was really challenging for him. He's a DJ, and I think teenagers sometimes find it hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, 100%.
So
100%. Definitely. And especially,
and of course DJs
in that teenage time of going out and having a drink with your friends or going and doing something, to completely just being locked down for nearly 12 months is pretty full on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he turned 18 in July last year, and all the things that you want to do, you want to go to the pub, all those things you can't do. I mean, look, there were people obviously way worse off than us, but obviously I'm just talking personally about what we went through. And then of course, I've got a hotel in Bali, so that slammed shut, and we got evicted. So that was a whole lot of fun. I had about 9 VCAT hearings that I had to deal with. So, yeah, we had our own set of challenges for sure.
Absolutely. And so, Sal, we first heard of you after you joined the cast of Real Housewives of Melbourne in season 4. I've always wanted to know, is it draining filming a show like that, knowing that each gathering that you go to could potentially turn into a fight? I've got to ask that.
No, not really. I mean, I didn't really look at it that way. Obviously, I'd had a lot going on, just prior to filming. And I really, I was kind of excited about it. And I didn't find it draining. I mean, you have a schedule that you're given for the week. So it's not like the Kardashians where they're following you around day in, day out. It's not like that. It's all pretty scheduled, and you might have 2 or 3 things one week, 5 things the next week, 3 things the next week. So it's kind of pretty spread out. And you never know what to expect when you're going into filming. It's just one of those things that you just kind of take it as it comes, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm all about, coping with mental stress here on How You Going with Jason Owen. And I wanted to ask, how did you cope after filming scenes where the heart might be racing? You might be a little bit riled up. There might be a little bit of a tiffle, on camera. How did you cope with that as such?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I get asked that a lot. I think I really just chose not to let a lot of it get in. I say to a lot of people that I feel like I kind of put this little invisible force field around me. And, when people are throwing things at you, I just kind of let it deflect off me, because going into it, you have to go through pretty rigorous, you know, in interviews to check your mental state. And obviously, I'd only lost Ian a few months before, so they want to make sure that you're, you know, mentally okay. And I guess that I felt pretty strong within myself, and that I just really didn't let it absorb. And I kind of felt like he was watching over me in a way and sort of protecting me. And I have to say that the cast were very kind, and you know, everyone was really lovely. Obviously, till you know we hit Mexico, and then it all turned to shit.
Yeah.
But you know, I've got a pretty strong personality and strength of character, I guess, and so I really just didn't let it bother me, and I had a mask as well, and yeah, just really just didn't let it get to me. I think when you see conflict coming at you from other people, it sort of says more about them than it does you. So I guess that's sort of how I looked at it. That really, obviously, Gina's the person that I had conflict with, and you know, the more I ignored it, the more she unraveled. So I kind of just sat back and watched the show.
I guess, like on another note from that, what about the stress and effects of after the show aired? You know, in the public, you know, people recognizing you and speaking to you about the show and things like that. Did you cop any type of criticism or anything like that from the show? Because I know myself, going on a reality show, it's not easy. You know, you're not going to please everybody. Not everyone's going to like you, no matter how nice you are to people or whatever like that. And I just wanted to ask that question. You know.
Yeah, look, I think when you're filming, stuff happens, you don't really know where it's going to go. Like you have your thing, you go home, you get on with it. But then, of course, when it airs, it's very different. I mean, I think when we were in Mexico and, you know, Gina and I had a falling out, and then she turned around and she, even before it aired, I think she went on social media and said that I'd called her a woke bitch, which obviously I never had. And that, I mean, that was a pretty sort of calculated move on her part. I think she knew the reaction that would happen. And, you know, I had death threats against my children, and I had to go to the police twice. I was getting a lot of really hateful, awful messages and emails from people and things like that. And, you know, I don't know. You just have to hope that eventually it will go away, and people will see the truth. That you know, as it airs, they see the truth that it's not actually what happened. Um, I don't know. You know, I don't know. It's just one of those sort of things that you really just have to wait for it to die down. I mean, I got a message on Instagram this morning. It was just a post of me wearing some clothes, and someone came on and made some comment about me calling Gina a wog bitch, and then I denied it, and what a drongo I was. I mean, that was literally just, I saw that just before we came on air. So, you know, I just laugh at, you just have to learn to laugh at that sort of thing. You can't let it get you down. And, you know, as long as my kids are okay, my kids are pretty strong and healthy. But yeah, it's definitely different once it starts airing.
Oh, it is, isn't it? And as you just said there, it's not an easy thing to do to let it go, though. Like when you're just going on a show, for example, and you've never experienced that type of popularity and fame,
Yeah.
it's not easy to let that go. And as you just said,
No, and look, you know, I mean, I made a choice to go off Twitter. I rang the network and I just said, look, I'm sorry. I'm literally waking up every day. You know, I was getting headaches. It was just making me feel so uncomfortable. And they said, look, if it's getting that bad, because obviously they like you to be across all the social media platforms.
Yep.
And it got to a point where I just thought, this is crazy. Like, these people are talking to me as if they know me. And then, of course, Lydia's chiming in and Gina's chiming in. And then one of the housewives in Beverly Hills started chiming in against me. And I just thought, this is crazy. I don't need this. So I went off Twitter. I found that was probably the most damaging platform, the nastiest platform. And but Instagram, I mean, yeah, there's been a few, you know, if they're really awful, I'll just block them. But, you know, some people don't like you, that's okay. You can sort of choose to let it in or not. But I found Instagram is probably the nicest platform that's out there.
Yeah.
And to be really honest, being out in the public, I mean, gosh, I was only on for one season, but I still and everyone has just been so nice. I've never had anyone come up to me in public and say something mean to me. They've always been really encouraging and supportive.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people reaching out about grief, which is which I really like, helping people through it, and lots of messages how I coped with grief, and so that's been really rewarding and enjoyable.
Oh, that's great, Sal. And who were your besties on the show? I got to ask.
Well, I luckily I met Jackie a couple of weeks before we started filming, and we literally hit it off instantly. And then my first filming was with Janet, and Janet was married to twice to nightclub owners, as was I. So we sort of instantly bonded. And then I met Gamble when we started filming, and we got along really well too. So it was pretty much sort of, the four of us were a little pack on the show. And I'm still friends with them all today.
Oh, great. Beautiful. And that's what we like to hear, because there is a lot of negatives to these type of situations with shows and TV and, the public and so forth. But it's always great to hear those good stories on the side,
Yeah.
like that.
Look, I mean, I'm so glad I did it. I actually, despite everything that went down, I really feel like I had such a great experience. I wouldn't take it back for anything. I mean, I loved working with all the crew. They were amazing. And obviously, I mean, I guess even though you have conflict like I did with Gina and a little with Lydia, at the end of the day, I think if we all got back together for I'm not saying being filmed, I'm just saying if there was a big reunion, we'd all sit there chatting like nothing went on. I'm not saying that I'm sort of friends with Gina or anything like that at the moment, but I think if in the future we were all to see each other, put your big girls' panties on and just get on with it. It's a show. Really, at the end of the day, it doesn't sort of mean, all those arguments and things don't really mean much at the end of the day, especially given what we've just been through the last 18 months.
That's
still
right.
Going through.
Exactly right, Sal, 100%. Well, let's get that one out of the way then. You had a massive blue with Gina on the show, who said that you didn't want to go back on the show if you were still on it. She says you called her a bully, among other things. For those who didn't see that episode, can you break down what actually happened for us?
Sure. Well, how it sort of transpired is that I had been filming with Gina and Lydia earlier that day, and Gina had said some pretty unkind things, as did Lydia, about Gamble, and it just made me feel a little uncomfortable. Yeah. And to be honest, after we finished filming that, I went back to my room and I thought, I kind of felt bad that I actually hadn't sort of stood up a bit more. But, I was still pretty new in there and figuring things out. And then we went for dinner that night, and Gamble sat next to Gina. And every time Gamble would try and talk, Gina would put up her hand and tell her to shut up. And it just went on and on and on. And it literally, I was just watching it and I felt so bad for Gamble, that I just said to Gina to stop being a bully. And literally that's all I said. And then she sort of stared at me, and I didn't realize that it was just such a big deal. And she got up and she stormed off, and then she took Jackie aside and she was screaming at her about me. And then she came back and she's kind of standing at the table and she's waving her finger and she's saying to me that I'm going to lose all these followers. And honestly, I didn't even know what she was talking about. And I kind of laughed. And so I think it obviously hit a bit of a nerve. And then then we just sort of kept filming, and she tried to come up to me the next morning just to say, oh, look, it's all part of filming. And I just really I just wasn't really interested in kind of talking to her. I thought she was a bit of an idiot, actually. And she, well, not an idiot, that's not the right word, but I just sort of I don't know. I just wasn't really interested in what she had to say. I think she was trying to recover from the comment and make herself look better. And then from then on, she realized that actually whatever she did to me, I didn't really care. And so then she really started to sort of unravel. And then she called me a bully. And then she started, saying that I was like lesbian and all sorts of things she started throwing at me. And the more she said it, I kind of, just, I don't know, the more she said it, the more I ignored it.
Yeah.
And the more I ignored it, the more upset she was getting and the more she was sort of losing control. And so it just sort of spiraled from there. And then every episode, she just kept banging on about me and what a terrible person I was, and which was sort of the opposite of what she said when I first came on. What a great girl I was, because, I'd known Gina for years. We used to work on Chapel Street together, and I know both her sisters and from my days at the magazine. So yeah, anyway, look, I just kind of, I had so much other stuff going on because I was filming during the day, and then at night, or afternoons or early mornings, I was, Skyping to Bali because I was in the middle of building a hotel.
Yeah.
And I was also building another villa next door to the hotel and trying to do a land deal down on the beach, and had a couple of a couple of houses that I was building in Barwon Heads. And I just opened a shop in Barwon Heads as well. So I had a bit going on that, this was all just fluff.
Yeah. So how do you feel about her now? How do you feel about Gina now?
Look, Gina's Gina. I think she was a really important part of the show. I mean, she's got a wicked sense of humor. She really does. She's smart, and she's got a good sense of humor. And look, I think she was playing a role. I mean, I remember saying to her before we started filming, I wish you'd show your really fun, the meanness that she shows often towards new girls, or the way that goes. But I think that's just the role that she sort of plays in a show.
Yeah.
But look, as I said, if we were all at a big reunion and I saw her, I'm sure we'd chat and have a laugh. But I don't know, you'd have to ask her that.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe she doesn't quite feel the same way about me.
So the show's been on hold for a few years now, right? If you were to go back, would you go on again?
Oh, look, I think that ship's probably sailed. I was pretty disappointed when, Gina made it obvious that she would not do the show without me, with me. And so, that sort of put the nail in the coffin there. And then, of course, she decided she didn't want to go back, which was about a year later. And I think by that stage, it had probably been and gone. But I do talk to the new girls that are on the show. Some of them, we have conversations every now and again, via social media. And they've just finished filming. I think they're finishing this week or another week to go.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that they're coming back with a new season.
Yeah, there's Jackie Gamble is still in, and then they've got 4 new girls. And I think, so there's, what's that, 3? So there's 7 of them, the same as when I was filming.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, Sal, I want to touch base on something, and I'm very sorry to hear this news as well. But for those who don't know, your husband, Ian, sadly passed away 5 years ago from throat cancer when you were just 51.
Yep.
Often people don't know what to say or do for those who have lost loved ones like yourself. What's your best advice for people that are going through something similar to what you've done?
Do you know what? Being the recipient, I've lost several people in my life. I don't think you're expecting anyone to come up with great words of wisdom. It's just letting people know that you're there in the way that you're most comfortable with. Some people cook lots of food and bring it over. That's a beautiful gesture. I don't think, and the thing is, it goes in one ear and out the other most of the time. But I think the important thing, because I did go through this with a friend many years ago, who, after my father passed away, she was my best friend, and I didn't hear from her for about 6 months. And she lived in America, but it really is, she just didn't know what to say. And of course, I was angry that she hadn't reached out to me. And then obviously we've made up, and she's one of my dearest friends. But she really, really just did not know. She was so upset about it because she'd grown up with my dad, that she really just didn't know how to reach out, didn't know what to say, didn't want to say the wrong thing. And it's not about what people say, it's just about the fact that they're there, or it's just a message, or it's a meal, or a, hey, I'm thinking of you. I find that when you do lose someone, when you're dealing with someone that's sick, you're just in this, what is it, fight or flight kind of state. And then there's the funeral, and all that's, keeping you going, and you've got so many people around you. It's when all that goes, it's the sort of 3 or 4 weeks after they're gone and everyone sort of disappears. I always, when I have friends that lose someone, I always like to check in with them at about that 3-week to a month mark after they've lost someone, because I find that that's probably the loneliest time. Yeah, I think, but really, what to say to someone, there really isn't anything you can say. Just be yourself. Just let them know that you're there. I think that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, no, and I agree, because you lost your dad when you were 30, and you also lost your brother before he was 40.
Yeah, my brother was 35. I was 33. He was obviously 2 years older than me, and he committed suicide, which is a very different experience from losing someone from an illness, like, cancer, because there's no chance of saying goodbye. There's no forewarning that it's going to happen. I mean, I guess with my brother, it was always in the back of your mind that it might happen. But when it does happen, it's just not something that you're ever really prepared for. I was in Bali when I found out about my brother. And yeah, and obviously then there's children. That would be a whole other experience, obviously, which my mum's been through. So I'm very lucky that I have an incredible mum, and mum lives with us, and we've really been each other's rock over the years, and just having a really good support network.
Absolutely, you must be an incredibly strong. Like I'm just looking, like reading a lot of this information before we have our chat here today on this, and it's just like, do you ever think, why me? Like I feel like someone's picking on me when I'm losing all my loved ones around me, and things like that. But it's just so unfortunate, and I'm so
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess after losing dad and my brother, you kind of think you're done. You go, okay, right, well, I've had my fair share of crap. And then of course Ian got sick. You know, I don't know. I choose not to be too self-indulgent and make it about me. I choose to more look at it as their journey and their life. And, especially with my brother, the choices he made really was very little to do with me. And, I see people that have lost someone, and years and years and years and years later, they just never recover from it. And I just didn't want to be that person. That's just not me, and especially with Ian, I had 2 kids to raise, and I had a hotel to run and a reality show to film.
yeah.
I had a lot going on. It's good to keep busy, to kind of take your mind off it. And yeah, I guess I just didn't want to be sort of self-indulgent and just make it all about me when really it wasn't. It's, the kids have lost a father, and Ian's own family, and he's got two children. They'd lost a dad. It's everyone's loss. It's not just your loss. And so that's sort of the way that I look at it. And I think, we never know how long we're ever here for. And I don't really want to spend my years crying over people that I've lost and ignoring the people that are here.
Yeah.
That's sort of my philosophy, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from. That, I guess, just born that way, just built in strength, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great way to look at it, because as we all know, there's not much we can do about what life's going to bring for us, and as you were saying about your brother, that's one main reason why I have the How You Goin talk show on here, for my followers and people, is it's about mental health, and
Yeah.
how people are coping, whether it's through life in general, whether it's COVID lockdown. And I think it's very important for people just to know that they're not alone through lockdown.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Sal?
Yeah, I mean, lockdown has been incredible in so many ways. I mean, it's been terrible in a lot of ways, but I always, I'm kind of annoyingly glass half full kind of person. If ever my friends come to me with something bad that's happened, I always try and find the positive somehow in that. And with lockdowns, especially for me, personally, I mean, I've lost all my income since February last year. I've had zero income from the hotel. And, as I said, we got evicted. We had a 2-year lease in place, and our landlord wanted to get us out. And he, as I said, we ended up in VCAT. Lockdown for me was a challenging time in a lot of respects, but as always, I try and find the positive of the amazing time and connection, with my kids, with my family, and with work. I had to kind of try and reinvent myself somehow. And so instead of, the way I look at it, instead of sitting around, bitching and moaning and whinging about what I haven't got, why don't I look at what I have got? Like, let's look at all the positive things in my life and what can I do with that? And one of those things was, I've got 26 odd thousand followers on Instagram. And I thought, I don't really do anything with them. I have all these incredibly loyal followers. I mean, I think I went up to like, I don't know, 28, 29,000 when I was on Housewives. And, 3 years later, I've still got 25,000 followers. So I kind of figured that these people are obviously there because they like me, and so maybe I should start doing something with them. So I went to a few friends who have shops, and I started borrowing clothes, because people kind of get annoyed if I have something and I'm wearing it and they can't buy it. Yeah. So I approached a few shops and said, look, can I borrow some clothes, and I'll give you a shout out, you can give me a shout out. And then I taught myself how to take photos, and enlist my kids and mum every now and again if I'm in a tricky position. And then all of a sudden I started getting paid for it, and people would start sending me clothes. And then I got a contract with Bella Management.
Yeah.
A 3-year contract, which was pretty amazing. Of course, this is when we're in stage 4 lockdown, so there wasn't a whole lot of work coming in. But I basically just sort of, changed my social media, started, using a nice filter and trying to make it a bit more uniform, just making it more appealing to look at. Yeah. And it's sort of, then I ended up getting a contract out of it. So that was just a way of turning a sort of bad situation into something a little more positive. And it's paid off really quite well.
100%, Sal. And I think that's what people have to do. There's always a positive and negative to everything. And I think as long as you look at the positive through negative times, it'll help you get through it. That's definitely 100% for sure. Sal, yeah. Can I ask you, are you dating?
No, I'm not. I've had a few dates. I'm not a dater. I've never really dated my whole life. I've been a big relationship girl, and I've been on a few dates, and I can't do the whole Tinder, online kind of thing. I'm just an old-fashioned girl. You meet someone, you like the look of them, they like the look of you, you strike up a conversation, and that's how. I mean, I've been married twice, and that's kind of how I met both my husbands and previous boyfriends. It's just one of those, I don't know, I'm just old-fashioned that way, and no judgment. I think it's a great way, and I have quite a few friends that have met people online and are now married. but I haven't quite gone there yet. And yeah, a couple of dates, but I don't know. Dating's just weird.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
And you know, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
Absolutely.
I'm a great believer in that. And I
100%.
guess, you know, just was never sort of quite ready. I feel like I'm coming out of that now. I did a post, it's nearly 5 years since Ian died. And I did a post just saying, you know, it's time to for him to let me go now. I feel like he's always around me and he's just making sure I'm okay. And, you know, I'm okay. I'm doing fine.
Oh, that's beautiful. Good on you. No, that's great. So you own a hotel in Bali called Bloomfield, Bali. Is that
Yep.
correct? Now, Bali, of course, has been hit really hard by COVID and also the lack of tourists. But your hotel was in one of 3% of hotels, which has been operating since last May. How has that been possible, Sal?
Yeah, so we obviously closed down as everybody else did back in March 2020. And you know, I was talking to my fantastic manager regularly, and you know, he sort of said, look, you know, there's actually quite a few people still in Bali, and you know, that are looking for somewhere to stay. And we had a few people come to the hotel to see if we were open or not. And a lot of Russians and Ukrainians were there.
Yeah.
And so we kind of decided around the end of May that we would open, and we got our guests to Facebook where they were, into the community, into the Russian community, Ukraine community that are in Bali, and you know, the sort of local market. And then all of a sudden we were absolutely inundated with people. So we've pretty much, you know, we've been up to 100%, from sort of 100%. I think the lowest we've ever really gone was about 45% since May last year, because you know, all the 5-star hotels are completely closed, as in power off, pools green, gardens overgrown, and you can imagine the state of the rooms. We're having no fresh air or air conditioning, so everything's pretty moldy and in pretty bad condition. So, you know, we're really lucky that we have managed to survive. I like to think it's from someone up above. There's enough of them up there. So I'm kind of hoping that, yeah, that we can continue. You know, it's getting a little more difficult now because people are really starting to run out of money and they're leaving the island. So we've just lost a couple of guests that had been there long term. But in saying that we're open, we're charging $15 a night. So, you know, it's not, I mean, which is terrible for me, but at least my staff can feed themselves and their families and their villages. And, you know, that's kind of how we're going, because before we reopened, I was having to send food parcels for all my staff, which obviously was, you know, after 6 weeks or so was getting expensive. But yeah, so we've been really, really lucky. And obviously the place is maintained, and, you know, we're doing little bits of maintenance as we go, but, you know, we need new roofs and things like that we can't afford to do at the moment. But it's keeping the place open.
It's unbelievable.
And the staff employed, which is great.
Just to think over the last 3 years, what's happened to everything is just ridiculous, really, when you think about it. Like, we were over there, my wife and I were over there for a wedding only 3 years ago, and it was beautiful. Like, we went into town and stayed at a place, and we stayed out where they got married, and it was beautiful. There were tourists there everywhere. We were at Hard Rock. We went everywhere, and now just to think it'd just be horrendous to be there now to have a look exactly what's happened with the lack of tourists and that going through Bali. It just must.
Yeah, look, I mean, the only place that was sort of thriving was Canggu. A lot of the younger people are staying down there. We're right next to Canggu. But, I mean, it's a pretty dire situation there, because there's no help from the government for any of the Balinese, no help at all. A lot of them are getting back into farming. Crime has risen. There are people that really, there's a lot of charities, which we have promoted over the last 18 months or so, and we're about to do another charity sort of push through social media,
Yeah.
to help. There's Project Nazi, there's feed Bali, people that are literally starving. I mean, it's terrible, and everyone's like, oh, I can't wait to travel and go back to Bali, but it just doesn't happen like that. I mean, Bali is, it's going to take a very, very long time to recover.
Yeah.
The five-star hotels are going to have to do total and absolute refurbishments, millions and millions of dollars. I mean, imagine the sheets that are required, and the furniture, and I mean, everything to reopen a place, the maintenance that has to happen. I mean, they're just, it's going to be a really long, slow process, and it's really, really sad
It is
for the whole island.
100%, 100%. So I actually found something that was really interesting. And I know due to COVID, your work here pretty much stopped a year and a half ago, and you had to sort of reinvent yourself. I hear you're now a model, though. I hear you're now modeling. How did all that come about?
Well, that's through Bella. That's who I mentioned before. I signed a contract with them. Yeah, look, there's been a few jobs with them, which has been fun. I
Yep.
didn't really know what to expect when they signed me up. I had no idea what sort of things I'd be doing. And for some reason, everyone wants me to take my clothes off. I've had three underwear jobs. Well, the first one I said no. I just thought, oh, seriously, who wants to see me with my clothes off? And then the second one, it was pretty good money, and I thought, oh, okay, look, yep, I'll say yes. And then I didn't end up getting it. And then the third one is with Maya, and I said yes, and then I did end up getting it. But let's be really clear, it's for real people. they're not they're not asking me because I have like a Victoria's Secret, model body or anything like that. So that's launching in August, and I haven't seen anything yet, so I don't know. But look, it was fun. And when you get there, I was working with a gorgeous girl also through Bella, and she's a bigger girl, and she does burlesque, and she's had such a big personality. And I just thought, you know what? I'm not going to walk in and go, don't look at me. I thought, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to see me half naked any minute. So then just ended up sort of wandering around the set with your bra and undies on. It wasn't even one piece. It was like bra and undies.
Unbelievable.
And, I suppose there's a few squidgy COVID kilos in there, but whatever. It was fun. It's real, that's for sure. It's definitely a real campaign.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I can only imagine how you must feel. Something that you're sort of last thing you'd ever expect to be doing, I guess. But you do
Yeah.
it, and be proud of it, Sal. I reckon it's bloody fantastic. Good on you. I reckon it's great. What else have you been up to?
Yeah. Look, I've also registered with a company called Mabel. They do, in-home care for the elderly, and for, disabled children, people. Put my hand up. I thought, well, mainly because I just thought, I live down the coast as well, same as you, but I just thought, there might be some elderly people that are really struggling to go shopping and to do things in their community. They might be too scared to go out, or they might not be well. And so I just thought it would be a really nice thing to do, to give back to my community and help, any way I can. Obviously, at the time, the kids were at schools. Or sorry, Jules was at school, so it was easy to, fill my days doing things like that. So that's been really fun, really rewarding.
Good on you, Sal. Look, I really appreciate you coming on for a chat, and it's so great to speak to you and for you to share some of your story with us today. It's been fantastic, and I just wanted to ask one last thing before I go, and I wanted to know what's the main thing you've learned about yourself in the last year,
Oh,
because it hasn't been an easy year.
no, I mean, look, I think that I have nothing to complain about. At the end of the day, there are people that are in way, way worse situations than me. So, I don't go on social media complaining about whatever I've been going through during COVID, because nobody really wants to hear, that sort of thing. What have I learned about myself? I guess just, more resilience, I suppose. I guess you do find out sort of who your really close circle of friends are. I've really enjoyed the time that I've had with my family. I guess probably good, healthy sense of humor is something that I do get through my tragedies with. Pretty much any situation that's out there, I try and find the humor. I post a lot of humorous things on social media just to, try and give people something to smile about. No matter what you're going through, I think you can always try and find just a little part of your day where just something tickles your fancy. And I've had an enormous response from people, just saying, oh, you make my day, you made me laugh today, thank you, I needed to hear that. I just think no matter what you're going through, you just can't ever lose your sense of humor.
No,
um,
right.
and yeah, and also, I'm so lucky to have my beautiful mum with me. I can't imagine if mum was, far away and I couldn't get to her. The kids and I are just really lucky to have mum with us and have our little family unit. And, we just try and have a good time. We cook together. We, sit around the family table and we just try and laugh as much as we can. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Sal. No, it's fantastic advice for everyone listening. And thanks again so much for joining us for a chat today. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to catching up sometime for sure.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope there are some things that have resonated with people. I don't mean to sound, glib or dismiss, things that people are going through. I don't ever want to sort of give that impression. I just, these are just the ways that I choose to get through sort of difficulties in my own life. So I hope that your viewers, enjoy.
Good on you, Sal. Thanks so much. Thank you very much. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.